Yeah. There we go. All right. So welcome to Jumpstart Your Creative Flow with Karen McDonald. This is the one, two, three, fourth in the series of Cabin Fever Reliever in 2025. And I'm going to hand it over to Karen. And then you can share your screen whenever you're ready, Karen.
Cool. All right. I'm Karen Daphne McDonald. That's my legal name, so as not to confuse anyone. I am a former librarian, and I always have a little bit too much material for these, but we'll fit in as much as we can, and we're going to do a couple of practices also. I'm going to encourage email sharing just in the interest of time because I want to share as much as I possibly can with you. Um, I want to ask a couple of things. I want to, um, it took me years after art school to learn to play with art again. And so I'd like for you to kind of regard this period as a play period. The most important thing to me is that you feel free to disbelieve anything I mentioned tonight. I'm in the process of writing a book about how the practice of meditation actually changed my brain, my perceptions, and my art. So I will be sharing some of those stories with you. They kind of overlap. So, if you could have an open mind, and I love to hear afterward what people are thinking or if they've had similar experiences. The techniques that I'm sharing are for anybody in any creative field. The two that I'm going to introduce are borrowed from my friend and teacher, Art Geiser. He teaches a field he pioneered called energetic NLP, and he lives in San Francisco. So I'm going to uh, experiment with you about how to create a project incubation space and also how to use symbols to launch a project or a dream or a goal or an intention. The last thing I share for me is from my book, and I'm going to call it The Enormous Potential of Night Work. I suggest that you have something to take notes with for your experiences and know that I'm sending Kelly notes that she can send out to you as a document so you don't have to write all the steps of the processes down. I'm also going to send a bit of a bibliography at the end of that sheet. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my first screen. Okay. So we're going to talk about jump-starting flow using symbols and symbolic languages. I'll just begin by talking about what started me on my path. My mother was an artist. Most of you don't know that my mother passed away right in front of me when I was very young. I was inconsolable, and I took a course that was being promoted at the time by the Beatles, TM or Transcendental Meditation. And within a few years, I noticed that liminal space was part of my everyday world. As I was falling asleep at night, there was a whole world happening behind my closed eyelids. I started to see multicolored grids. I started, and I still do. At night, I see something. A lot of times, it is a multicolored grid. Other times, it's as if I'm looking into a miniature scene, like I'm looking through the top of a dollhouse where life is taking place with people or a family. I still see these things. I don't know exactly what they mean. They are kind of visions that last about 10 minutes. I would be happy to know if anybody else has that, just as they're going to sleep at night. I usually eventually find a book or a reference where someone has figured out what it means or what they are. There are also nights when I have pages and pages of binary code scrolling behind my eyelids. I trust that there's a part of me that knows what this is about. I don't think it's harmful. And at this point, I've learned to be able to ask for a replay because I really have no idea what it is, and they give me a bit of a replay. TM was a part of my exploration of spirituality and consciousness. I was 18. My brain was still in quite a plastic state, you could say. Okay, so I'm going to start moving my slides forward. In the mid-90s, I had the pleasure of studying with a teacher by the name of Drumvalo Melchizedek. He was an artist who changed his major to physics, and he has gone on to pioneer some amazing things in the world in terms of zero gravity inventions and that kind of thing. A lot of his work was around the symbol you see in front of you, which is the flower of life. And that would take a whole hour to get into that. There is a field around the body and a meditation that goes into this, but I'd just like for you to imagine an overlay of Leonardo's Vitruvian Man on top of this. And it gets really interesting. I taught this flower of life meditation around the world, and I had people in various places learning it and learning how to move the field around the body. They got phone calls from their kids in other countries that were spinning, that experienced spinning. As I said, we'll have to save that for another time, but this form is all over the Egyptian temples and many, many other places, Greece, Bali. It's everywhere, and it's quite important. So this was my introduction to sacred geometry. The reason that I am bringing it up is that there are basic Platonic solids, as you see here. These were found as carvings in sets in caves 10,000 years ago. And I've done pretty extensive research into why on subconscious and unconscious levels we are responsive to geometry. And there's a lot of work now that tells us that our bodies start to hum when we look at these solids because they reflect the cellular structure of our blood, some of the neural pathways of our brains. And so when we look at these geometric symbols, our blood and our bodies start to hum, and it takes us into a realm of consciousness that is very high frequency. So these are the shapes of life. This is pure, the purest level of geometry, and it's been around a very long time. We don't know where it came from. I get very excited when I start talking about geometry. Oops. All right. I'm sure that you've heard of labyrinths. This is another very, very sacred shape. It reflects the two sides of the brain. In fact, I have been to places where I went specifically to walk the labyrinth. This is the one in Chartres cathedral in France. And wouldn't you know it, there was about to be a mass when we arrived. So there were chairs on top of the labyrinth. So I went all the way there to walk the labyrinth and I couldn't do it. But it turns out that you can also draw the labyrinths and trace them with your fingers, and there are changes that happen in your brain. So these are very, very powerful geometries and symbols. For our purposes, we are going to start a practice tonight that I hope will be helpful for you. You might know this shape as a Venn diagram, and I have to say that the ancient religions were using this Vesica Pisces, is what it's called, way before Professor Venn, I think he was at Cambridge or Oxford, decided to brand this for himself. You notice that these are two qualities coming together as one, reminiscent of the yin-yang symbol. The almond shape at the center mirrors the amygdala, which plays a key role in attaching meaning to our memories and our emotional experiences. The process that I'm going to share with you is borrowed from my friend and teacher, Art Geiser, who is the founder of energetic NLP. The reason why this is a really good place to incubate your ideas for projects or even brainstorming a project in this space is because in the ancient religions, the middle was a womb space. And so I'd like for you to have a pencil and something to write on nearby, because I'd like to do our first process. So if you get yourself in a comfortable position and allow your eyes to close, I'm going to keep my camera on, but sometimes when I do meditations with groups, I do turn my camera off. So take a very deep breath. And remember, we are acting as children, and so we're just going to play with this process. You don't have to remember it. I'm going to send you the steps. I'd like for you to imagine this center space as a small room. And you're outside of this space, a Vesica Pisces. It looks like two bubbles adjoined, kind of tents or domes. And in the middle, there is a very comfortable, safe, and warm room. So I'd like for you to imagine that there is a door to this room. Find that door and imagine that you're walking into a room. And though in the geometry it is an almond shape, when you walk into the room, it is a normal, comfortable room. You can adjust the temperature and the color hue of this room. Do that now. What is the shade? What is the temperature you want this room to be? This is your incubation space. I'd like for you to imagine that there is a closet in this room. In that closet, as soon as you imagine it, the object will appear at the center of this room. So I'd like for you to imagine a table, your ideal table, a wonderful table, just as you can imagine it would be comfortable, attractive, a wonderful table. Imagine that now, and that table appears in front of you at the center of this room. Touch the table. This is your table. Now I like for you to imagine that in the closet there is a box. Maybe it's a wooden box. Maybe it's carved. Maybe it's a paper mache collage covered box. But it's something that opens and contains something. So imagine a box. And as you imagine it, it appears at the center of the table. This box is large enough for a small journal or book of some kind, a writing implement, and matches. Imagine you are opening your book now. Opening your box. Open your box now and remove the book. Remove the writing instrument and remove the matches. Move the box to the side of the table. In the closet, there's one last thing. Sorry, it's not the last thing, but there's a candle in the closet. So a candle of your imagining, probably a fairly large pillar candle of the color that you desire. And imagine that candle now. And as you imagine it, it appears on the table in front of you. A beautiful candle. A pure candle. Look for the matches. Pick up the matches and light the candle on your table in your womb space. This is a room that is your place of incubation. It is safe. It is warm. It is inviting. Light your candle. And just two more things that are in the closet. Chairs. Two chairs of your design, of your desire. What kind of chairs do you want in your incubation space? Comfortable, of a color that pleases you. Imagine two chairs now, and one appears on your side of the table, and one appears on the other side of the table. Touch your chair and pull it close enough that you can sit down on your chair. Notice that your incubation space feels really good. It feels like a nurturing space. It feels welcoming. It feels personal. The next time you come into this space, you could invite an aspect of yourself. You could invite a symbol of deity that you are familiar with. If you work with ascended masters and goddesses, you'd be amazed at how these different liminal spaces make it easy for other beings to appear. Perhaps it's someone who is on the other side, who you are very close to. So this is a liminal space. It is a space of miracles. It is a space where you can invite someone to be with you for purposes of communication, meditation together, guidance, looking into the future. This is your space. We'll do one last thing. I'd like for you to pick up the book, open the book to the first page. Take your pencil or pen and claim this book as your own. Write your name or as you would like to be known on the first page of this book. Close the book, put the book back in the box, put the pen or pencil in the box, put the matches in the box, and close the box. You can now blow out the candle. The space is naturally lighted. It's never dark. I'd like for you to thank this space that you have established that will now be at your service whenever you choose to enter it. This is a space where you can ask for direction for your projects, writing, painting, wishes and dreams you want to come true. So find yourself back in your chair, knowing that that space will always be there for you. You're now back at your computer. Take your hands and just tap the sides of your face, tap your temples, tap the top of your head. And in any way that you are used to using, dissolve any old grounding cord and ask Mother Earth to send a tube of light up about an inch from your tailbone area and connect with the earth again. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. So you can take a minute and write any notes that you might want to, anything you might want to remember. You might want to write a quick description of the table, the box, the book. But this is now your established incubation space that you can use anytime you would like to. All right. So my friend Art Geiser talks about there being two parts to us, your spirit and your inner wisdom. The spirit is aligned with a finer frequency than matter. your inner wisdom is connected to your body. There are times when your spirit, that higher part of you, and your body are not in agreement. So this Vesica Piscis shape, he calls the middle the miraculous self, when your spirit and your inner wisdom come together and are in agreement. So at any time, this is a powerful symbol that you can use. In other systems, there are other configurations, but the most important thing is the merging or the unity at the center. The Vesica Piscis is also related to the golden mean. It is a very, very sacred shape. As you can see here, even though Vesica Piscis translates into bladder of a fish, not very spiritual or romantic, it is a very powerful geometry. Again, I invite you to shoot me an email after we finish and with any questions or anything you want to share. We're halfway through, more than halfway through, unbelievably. So I'm going to keep going. All right. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. This is everything. Energy, frequency, and vibration. We have symbols in our cultures that have energy, frequency, and vibration that we have imbued them with. Sometimes we have appropriated symbols. This red symbol is an ancient Hindu Vedic symbol that Hitler adopted because he knew it was so powerful. So unfortunately, we now associate with that with a more profane and obscene symbol, but it comes from a very, very ancient tradition. Every one of these symbols has energy, frequency, and vibration. All right, we are going to work on another process that involves symbol. And this is one of my very, very favorite that my friend Art Geiser uses in every one of his workshops and settings. So again, you don't have to write down the steps. I think you will like it. I'm going to send you the steps. You don't have to worry about this. So I'd like for you to get comfortable again. Allow your eyes to gently close. Take a deep breath. And imagine connecting with your spirit. Some people like to imagine a beam of light from above coming down into the body. It goes into the heart chakra, begins to enliven the heart. And from the center of the earth, we have a rod of light that comes up, that also connects at the heart and meets at the heart. We want to do this process from the meeting of your spirit and inner body wisdom. We're going to call this the miraculous self. So I'd like for you right now, where you are in your life, to think of something that you want to create or some condition that you want in your life, or even something that you need and you want, perhaps a house or a car or a partner, or it could be an art project that you've thought about and you want to begin to bring into reality. So I'd like for you to just allow, as you think of this thing that you want, allow a symbol to pop into your mind. Move that symbol out in front of you about 6 feet. Just as you did with yourself. Bring a beam of light from the highest level of manifestation and let that project and animate, project light and life and animate your symbol. Whatever your symbol is, there's now light streaming in from above. Ask the earth to send a tube of light up to ground your symbol into the earth. So now your symbol has a rod of energy coming through the bottom and a beam of light coming through the top of it. And it looks like electricity. It looks like a whole galaxy of activity is happening around your symbol. It is being energized and animated. And now let that beam of light from above gently withdraw. Allow the rod of life from the earth to gently withdraw. And duplicate your symbol exactly as it is. So now there are 2 of them. What you're going to do next is allow the symbol on the right to start moving out into the world, and it weaves itself into the room you're in, into your neighborhood, into the whole planet. It weaves itself as something real into the material world. It has a presence. It has a reality. The other symbol that's still there, reach out and invite that into your heart, and it comes into a size where it slips perfectly, smoothly into your heart, becoming a part of you, able to grow and evolve and be nurtured by your acts in the world. And when you're ready, move your toes and fingers, gently tap your face, your temples, the top of your head. Allow your old grounding cord to dissolve. A fresh one finds its way to your tailbone. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Make any notes that you want to make. You now have a fresh creation that is a part of the fractal holographic reality of planet Earth. You're feeling lightheaded at all or just light, you can move your legs and your feet a little bit, do some more tapping on opposite arms and opposite legs. I personally am about to fly away here. I had to mention the color spectrum because I'm always amazed at this little rainbow down here that is the range that at the current time we are able to see. I love the artists who worked with color so intensively that they felt they became one with color. There are times when I choose a color and I do a color bath. There are times when I imagine that I am looking into a bowl that is full of one radiant color, and I want an idea for art, and something will emerge from that bowl that is the thing that I will draw or paint next. So color can be very magical. The reason why I wanted to talk just for a minute about color is that they are measuring new frequencies on this planet, new energies coming from the sun. Those are changing our brains. It is predicted that within the next 10 years, we will have the capacity to see new colors. I don't know about you, but I find that very, very exciting. And I'm watching out for that. So our capacity to receive color through the receptors in our eyes are expanding. Very exciting. Love to know if you know anything else about that when you, if you want to write me a note later. Going backward. Okay. You know that music has energy, frequency, and vibration. I don't think I have to talk about that. I love to see the geometries, though. I think they're quite lovely. Okay. This is my favorite thing to talk about. I don't know if anyone has heard of night school. There's very few things written in terms of esoteric literature about night school. Night school, in my experience, is a place of freedom. My body is limited. If I want to go somewhere, I have to get on a plane. Not the same with night school. It relies on your intention as you go to sleep at night. You can ask to start experiencing like night school. Some of the things that I have done in night school, I have asked to meet with people that I have a conflict with in a very pure field where we are heart to heart, soul to soul. I have done that with people that I work with, and within a couple of days, the conflict is resolved. Sometimes I ask to go home, wherever that is, and I'm not allowed to remember, but I feel quite different when I wake up in the morning. I'm going to just share a couple of things that I have experienced with this, and I'm suggesting that is something that you can just start using, because there is a part of you that knows exactly what this is and how to employ it. When my mother passed away in 1973, I was responsible suddenly for being the mother for 3 of my siblings, and it was quite hard. I was 18 years old, and I would say quite immature. I decided that I would try to do a painting. I hadn't painted in my grief. I hadn't painted. So I set up my canvas. I squeezed out some paints. And the last thing I remember is picking up my brush. And the next thing I knew, I heard my father's alarm clock. I started this about midnight. Next thing I knew, at 7:30 that morning, the alarm clock was going off, and there was a painting in front of me. I do not know how to make it happen again, but it did happen again. I had it happen again in 1974. I was at college in a studio with 3 or 4 of my classmates and friends. I had read The Last Temptation of Christ, which is a very painterly book. I thought I was going to paint a certain scene from this book, which is these 2 brightly colored angels. Kazantzakis is a very painterly writer. So I had in mind what I was going to paint. I sat down just after midnight because we'd all been preparing our canvases. Again, same thing. Put the paint on the palette, picked up my brush, and the next thing I knew, my friend Robin was tapping me on the shoulder. It was daylight, and there was a quite amazing image on the canvas. So I'd be interested in knowing if anybody has had that experience. We have a little time if anybody wanted to unmute, if anybody has had that experience, I would love to know about it. The paintings that resulted were nothing like I had ever painted before and were quite remarkable. I'm going to suggest that this is a realm that is very, very rich for artists to use. Nighttime is what many groups, indigenous groups particularly, call a second waking. And there are many, many things that you can do in this space. One of the first times I experienced it, I was living in Manhattan with my cousin, and I had other artists that I associated with. And we started having these dreams of the subway at night, that we were cleaning up the subway. And we started comparing notes of our dream journals because we saw each other there. And it turns out that there were ley lines that were contaminated running under New York that could be accessed through the subway. So there were 4 of us that were working on the subway at night. And it was quite remarkable. We would write our experiences without talking to each other. And we would compare, and we were all doing the same thing at night together. There are times when I just have kind of had it with America and planet Earth, and I ask to go home at night. And I don't know what planet that is, but the next morning I feel revitalized and inspired and strengthened. So I'm suggesting that as artists, this is a time that we can be utilizing. I don't feel that you have to read about it. I don't feel that there actually are not that many books about it. I've actually found a sound recording once of a lady who taught this, and some Aboriginal writings at times, but we are quite free to travel in this dream space, and there's a lot that we can do. I will often ask, as I'm going to sleep, to meet with my council of future selves, and they will present different scenarios of my path that I could go off on. So this is something that one can use. There have been times when I asked to meet with an artist that I admire that is now deceased. And I believe that for our conscious waking in this world, that it would be a little too much to remember what goes on. There's some documentation of people whose two worlds got confused, were overlapping too much, and they had psychotic breaks. So this is not for the faint of heart, but I'm suggesting that this is something that you can absolutely use for all aspects of your life, particularly for art. This is a place where you can travel along the time spiral and go into the past or the future. Whether you are looking at your career path in the future or looking to resolve something in the past, this is a space that you can use. So I just wanted to mention and introduce you to the Dreamtime spaces. I wanted to see if anybody has done any Dreamtime work that you know of. So I invite you to unmute yourself if you had experiences like that. I have done whole paintings with my mom, who is deceased. She was an artist. I've done paintings with her at night in this space. It's quite a wonderful experience. Has anybody else had experience in this night space? No? Okay. So we have about 5 more minutes. Just to wrap up, we are receivers, transmitters. Our thoughts and images come from 3 different realms: the conscious, the subconscious, and the unconscious. Symbols are very much a part of our language as artists. They have energy, they have frequency, they have vibration. I personally want to use more symbology in my art. Okay. The capacity to receive and create symbols was considered an evolutionary leap in the human consciousness. It has to do with higher order thinking, and according to neuroscience, our brains prefer symbolic language to the spoken and written language that is the currency of our everyday reality. It's an evolutionary leap. So I invite you to continue to inhabit and use the space of the Vesica Pisces that you created. There are 2 chairs there because it's very easy to invite people in to speak with you. It can be a place of conflict resolution. It can be a place to incubate art projects. I do that a lot. Are there any questions?
So the space you're talking about, that's more of the meditative space and time. That's not so much for the night dream space, right?
Yeah. The Vesica Pisces space that you enter through the center of the two circles is something you would allow to happen consciously.
Okay.
Although it's possible to go really deep in there. And you'd be amazed at how easily people show up, whether it's deceased relatives or even living beings. Sometimes I've had show up. But my experience is that there are artists in your soul group that would like to work with you, that would like to work with us, and they love to be invited into that space. Um, I'm not sure why. I don't have any information all of these years later about who came in to work with me when I did those two, I call them automatic paintings. Um, but I don't know who came in to work with me those two times. I suspect that the first automatic painting I did, I don't know if I talked about that, was after my mom died, and my mom was a painter. So my mom came in when I was grieving, and I believe painted a portrait of herself with me. That was quite remarkable. But I had zero memory. When I opened my eyes that morning, when my father's alarm clock went off, there was an image that looked a lot like my mom. And the second painting I did, the automatic painting I did, was at school in Vermont, and that was in the style of a famous artist. Um, but I have not been able to make it happen. So it's still quite a mysterious process to me, automatic painting. Um, that I definitely was not conscious, was not there. But somehow I was awake enough to be sitting on a stool with a paintbrush working in my hand, and I had no memory hours later. It's quite a remarkable thing that's happened to me twice. And I can't seem to make it happen. It only happens when it wants to happen. So yeah. So any other questions?
Can't wait to try it.
Yeah, so I'm going to probably tomorrow send Kelly a typed up notes on what we talked about. But it's kind of, both of those processes are very, very cool to work with. But the night work is just absolutely remarkable. I found a set of recordings, and these were cassette tapes on a woman who taught it. And I found something in a book once, but not many people talk about night school. It's quite incredible. And they're for our use. We're there, I figure we might as well be conscious of where we are at night. So.
All right, that's super cool. Sam, do you want to stop the recording?